Welcome to the OC. I'm Phil, and this is my co-host Corey. And tonight we are talking about Project Stargate.
Actually, it's called the Stargate Project.
Apparently,
the common misconception is it's called the Project Stargate. It's actually
wait a
Stargate
minute.
Project.
MacGyver's not in this. Richard Dean Anderson is not in this. I'm out.
I know. Sorry, man.
I gotta go. Fuck this. Okay, Stargate Project. So,
all right,
yeah.
Let's summarize
for us.
For the early people, right? So, folks, if you're joining in, thank you. Like and subscribe.
Like and subscribe.
Tonight's episode is called about the Stargate Project. This was a project run initially by the Defense Intelligence Agency, and then later tied somehow to the CIA, that basically explored remote viewing. And this,
right?
So, folks,
remote viewing.
Yeah.
Let's explain remote viewing.
Seeing
and
things
it's not that
without
funny.
being there, right?
There was a lot of study that went into this, like 20 years worth. So
exactly. So this is why we're talking about the summary, right?
Yeah. So
this was the whole project to do this thing. Like think Ghostbusters, except not as funny.
Well, yeah. So think remote viewing as in you can see things from a distance, like across an ocean, and see what's going on in real time. So it's like, hey, but they didn't just do that, right? They touched on, telekinesis,
stuff, but the psychokinesis stuff. So the project was predominantly focused on the remote viewing aspect of the time, but there are all those other psychic aspects, right? The psychokinesis, specifically the ability to manipulate things, such as they talked about, like a random number generator, to manipulate it to get it to generate a specific random number generator,
or to stop a heart. We'll get into that later.
Okay, yeah. Now we're going down a rabbit hole. All right, but that's a summary.
But right, yeah.
DIA.
And why would you want to do it? Why would you want to do that?
Okay.
Why would you want remote viewing?
So now we're going to jump right into history. The history is apparently in the 70s, the U.S. believed that Russia was spending 60 million rubles, which I mean, I don't know what the hell that works out to or amount. On
sounds like a lot.
Psychotronic research.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So they believe that Russia was dumping a lot of money into this. So clearly, if Russia's doing it,
well, we all got it.
I mean, this is what happens, right? So this race started, and it didn't just start technically with that. It had started before, because there had been independent research. Like, so this would be 70s. So the New Age movement had kind of, pyramid power, all that sort of stuff was taking off. And if everybody's talking about it, clearly there must be something to it, right?
Yeah. And the project didn't really get that name until like much later, right? There was
the Stargate Project. Fun fact, folks, it wasn't called the Stargate Project till about 90s.
No. Yeah, 91.
How long it ran.
Yeah.
It started off as the first, not counting the Scanat, it was started off as
Gondola. Was it Project Gondola?
Gondola Wish, Phil.
Gondola Wish.
What they would do is they would take two words and put them together. So you've got Gondola Wish became Grill Flame, became Center Lane, became Dragoon Absorb, became Sunstreak, became Stargate. So that's the sort of progression. It eventually settled, like in the 90s, we're talking Stargate. But back to the 70s, right? So we're talking about a bit of history here. Stanford University, or the Stanford Research Institute, which I think was associated with the Stanford University.
Yeah, that was SIA or whatever. The Stanford SRI. Sorry. Yeah. And they were an independent. These guys weren't military.
Nope.
What were their names? Russell Targ and Harold. I don't know how you said.
I want to say Puthoff.
Because that's kind of
Puthoff.
Yeah, they were parapsychology researchers at Stanford Research Institute, and they were
physicists. So this is the thing. They were doing this work, but they were apparently physicists. Now, you can think about, so are you familiar with the concept of quantum entanglement?
Not at all. But you're going to tell me, right? I need to know now.
This is when we're dealing with quantum physics right now, and it's all in the news, right? So we're talking quantum cryptography, how it's going to break everything. Quantum entanglement is the idea that you have two things that are linked, that if you change one, it changes the other.
Oh, okay.
Sure. So but there's no clear link between the two. So that's when you look at the idea of physicists involved in this kind of research. It maybe doesn't sound so bizarre.
Well, if you think of thought as an energy, right? If you think as a thought or a thought is an electrical impulse or an energy. Well, maybe it can do something.
That's what the
Who knows?
Russian programs were apparently based on. That idea that there was this ambient energy that exists. I mean, energy exists around us, right?
Yeah.
Reality is energy. And the thought is that if you can use the energy up here to manipulate the energy out there or control it, see it.
People that have lost limbs and they get those phantom limb, like an itch or cold hand, or it's kind of fucked up, maybe different.
It might be a little
different, but again,
some people say it's a nerve thing that they're just remembering. Other people say no, it's
there's an energy there. Yeah,
there was something there, so you're remembering it.
So it's established in 1978 out of Fort Meade, Maryland, right?
Yep.
And that's where the Defense Department is. So this is kind of taken. I think it started before that.
It did. So 1972 is the research they were doing at SRI, right? And this is where they actually, this is where somebody you might be familiar with, Uri Geller, winds up getting involved. He
in 72. That's right.
He was involved with those with Targ and Puthoff.
So any of you who don't know who Uri Geller is, you're probably under the age of 25.
Under the age of 25. Try under the age of 35, buddy.
Or 30, I guess, right?
Yeah,
oh my God.
Jesus.
So Uri Geller was a big deal. He was like a psychic. Well, his thing was he bent spoons, silverware. He could just touch things and so some of the stuff that I read though about him, it's kind of a shame because they're saying that he's really discredited as far as being a legitimate, but they used him for years for this purpose.
They did. So he was because of the, I don't want to say it's theatrics, but because
he was a showman. He became very rich.
Showman. He
became very rich as an illusionist and as a, he was an illusionist.
But as Targ and Puthoff were proponents, they were believers. So this is part of the problem when you have somebody who is not independent of the subject they're researching.
Right. They're too close to it. Yeah, for sure. Because they want to believe. It's like me with Bigfoot. I mean, I want to believe. I would not make a good Bigfoot researcher. I'd be the guy like, that's a Bigfoot. I think that's a Bigfoot. Sounds like a Bigfoot out there.
Exactly, right? And that most people who are Bigfoot researchers really dig big and they want to see Bigfoot.
Yeah, but then you get the guys, I like the guys that they're not Bigfoot. They just want to fucking find it. They want a reason. I like those guys. I mean, if you're listening, I like all of you. Don't get me wrong. I just enjoy the guys that are like, they're skeptics, but they want to find. They believe that there's like myself. I mean, I believe there's a reason, but anyway, these guys are deep down the rabbit hole. They're like, nah, this shit is fucking for real.
They actually lost their funding at one point
because of Geller.
Because they sent the U.S. Department of Defense had sent somebody to assess, and his exact words were, that Geller was a complete fraud. Like that's complete fraud. Like full stop.
Full stop.
Words.
I remember. So I read a book about Geller when I was a young man. I can't remember if it was for school or if I just read it because it was kind of fun. And there was so much about this guy. Like this guy was on national television in Britain. He's British. He's a Brit.
Isn't he? He's English. I thought he was Israeli.
Oh no, he's Israeli, but he was in Britain at this time. Yes, you're right. He is Israeli. He was
an Israeli. He actually apparently was.
He was in the military. He was in the military. But anyway, he was on this show, and I can't remember which show it is. It's one of my recollections of the book, but he was on this show, and the station. So he demonstrated what he could do with the spoons and bending them, and actually melting the spoons into fucking liquid, right? So the studio ended up getting thousands of phone calls.
Really?
Of people, thousands of phone calls. Yeah, this guy is a story all unto himself. But
I read his short biography on his own website. It is not short.
It's just not short.
I don't know what his long biography is, but his short one is not very short.
It's 7,000 pages. This is the short one. But anyway, so the studio gets all these calls, and they're like fucking spoons are bent in my, because they don't know why. But yeah, it was like a real thing, and it became quite this thing about bending spoons and what have you. And
he's known for the bending spoons, but he also is known as being a precog. That's why he got sort of pulled into some of this stuff.
Yeah,
right? The ability to
read minds,
predict. read minds.
Yeah, that was a big one.
Tell me what's on the sheet of paper that I'm looking at. I've read, like, there was one thing where a researcher had drawn something and stuffed it in a vault.
Yes.
And Yuri was supposed to figure out what was in there, and he couldn't. And he said, well, obviously somebody else other than you drew it because I can't pick it up.
Yeah. Where it goes off the rails quite a bit for Yuri Geller is that by his own admission, he said that he is from extraterrestrials. He was sent to Earth. And
this is where
53,000 light years away. Okay, Yuri.
That's right. It would be saying you're psychic wasn't enough. Okay, Yuri.
Now you're not of this world. So that's where, and then he retracts that. He says, "Oh yeah, no, I was just kidding around," because everybody's like, "This is not good, Yuri. You dipshit." Anyway, so I digress. Let's get back on, because this is not Yuri Geller.
They've lost their funding.
They've lost their funding
because of this, and they actually the put off Targ and Yuri go on a public relations tour to try and drum up more funding.
Right.
And that I think meets with mixed results. But eventually in 1977, so this was 1972-ish is when this all sort of fell apart for them.
Yeah.
1977, the assistant chief of staff for intelligence systems exploitation detachment started the Gondola Wish program.
Right.
Which is basically the potential applications of remote viewing.
Yeah. And CIA is all involved.
Yes, the CIA they of course, right? They're an intelligence agency.
Yeah, but I think up until 72, they weren't overly involved, right? Like it was more the Defense Department and
it was more the Defense Department funding, because again, SRI was funded by the Defense Department to do some of the stuff. So
now you're still in the Cold War times, right? Like everybody is against everybody in terms of like, China, Russia, you got your big three, North Korea, you've got the Japanese, you got all.
China wasn't it wasn't as big of a threat.
But they were still
big of a challenge as it is now. It was mostly, you had Russia and you had that communism spread, right? Where you had
they were communists with Russia. So that's why you always have China pairs with Russia. It just seems to be that. But Russia was like, yeah, man, we're fucking doing all this kind of cool
they didn't
shit.
So this is beautiful the way they did this. Is the Russian didn't say we weren't like oh well, yeah, we're dumping billions or what, like why
rupees rupees.
Yeah, I don't know what that works out to, but it's probably not a lot. Maybe it's
$8.
Maybe they just didn't. Yeah, they said 60 million rubles.
Jesus. Yeah.
But it's that idea that if you can get your opponent to spend money on something that basically is it's beautiful counter.
Why not? It's counterintelligence, right?
Yeah.
It's and it's counterproductive.
And they did spend a lot of money on this. I don't know what the final tag was. I think at the end it was something like they were spending $500,000 a year on it or something like that. Like
the Russians or the
America.
Well, they were a small group. They were only like 15 or 20 people.
They got down to 3 by the end.
These started to very quickly.
One of them used tarot cards. At the end, one of them was using tarot cards.
Yeah.
There's a bunch of, if you hit the notes up, I've got links to the Stargate repository on the CIA. If you okay with going to the CIA repository, they've got all their unclassified documents.
Why not?
So this program, Gondola Wish, then basically in 1978 became Grill Flame. And that's where they started really pulling in all the stuff from SRI. So all the stuff SRI had done, they start pulling that into Grill Flame.
They started to go, okay, well, this is research. But this stuff also, and it doesn't really talk about it too much, but I mean, they were trying to do mind control things, obviously in World War II, right? So back to our Nazi.
It's funny you mentioned that. So remember last week's episode, MK Ultra?
Oh, how can I forget? Like and subscribe.
Remember our buddy Frank Olson?
Yes, he's in this.
Okay. Yeah. He's apparently, so his son is Frank Olson's son. Basically, recently now believes that his father was involved with MK Ultra and Project Stargate. So there's trying to link. He's linking it to Stargate now.
Right.
MK Ultra, okay, that makes sense, but Stargate. Now, this Frank Olson, if later on we're going to talk about the men who stare at goats. The
men who stare at goats.
He actually, his role kind of shows up in there, but again, that's a fictional account that's not even remotely real of anything. But
right.
I digress.
Perfect. Yeah. So, well, at least it's not Jimmy Olsen,
Superman's buddy.
Superman's little buddy. Yeah. I it's funny because there's no real. I mean, the paperwork behind this too is not. I don't think it's ever been declassified. Right. This is not a declassified. I don't think it is. I don't know.
There
Did
is
you
an
find?
awful lot. There is
There's information, but it's not declassified. I mean, like, you know how
there's some stuff that's redacted, I think, but you can
is
get
there?
that.
Oh, okay.
You
I
can
wasn't
actually
sure.
go. So if you go to the CIA archives,
Yeah.
the Stargate project, they've got all the stuff. They've got test results. They've got memos. They've got, now, is it everything? I'm sure it's nothing. I'm sure nothing that is actually of usefulness is there.
Yeah, because why would you run and this is my question. Why would you run a program for 20 years if you didn't think it would work?
Okay. Are we just going to go with our standard angle of government bureaucracy and competence and like these programs exist and it's like
you just keep going? I mean, do you think that, I mean, let's get into the actual, some of the things that they did.
Yeah.
Right?
Okay. So we'll focus. So the big focus.
Yeah.
So I've got actually here's something that's interesting.
Sure.
Would you like to hear the mission statement for this program?
Yeah.
To establish a program using psychoenergetics for intelligence applications, specifically utilizing that field of psychoenergetics referred to as remote viewing. The program encompasses the following. So unlike MK Ultra, we've actually got a very narrow scope. Scope creep is terrible, folks. Don't ever get into it. Establish a training program in remote viewing utilizing selected INSCOM personnel. Establishing procedures for intelligence collection techniques utilizing remote viewing.
Right.
Establish a mechanism for responding to intelligence collection requirements, tasking using remote viewing.
Gotcha.
So that was the official mission statement for all of this. So now
a lot of remote viewing.
This is, like I said, the focus predominantly was remote viewing. That doesn't mean they didn't do, I mean, if you're doing psychic research, because this was supposed to, I guess, let me see if I can find the proper term.
For what? For
the Stargate project created a set of protocols designed to make the research of clairvoyance and out-of-body experiences more scientific and to minimize as much as possible session noise and inaccuracy. Right. So, and they would apply that to any psychic phenomenon they would, because if you're doing this, I mean, it gets pretty boring just doing remote viewing.
For sure. And no, they had to do some headhunting, right? Like they had to find psychics. It's not like you just put an ad out in the paper and go, maybe or can you?
Or can you, right?
Or can you?
Well, this is where we talk about somebody like Uri Geller, right? So Uri Geller's involvement, although initially was more...
He was already famous, though, by this time.
Correct.
He was known. Right? He was a household name, right? So
and they seem to have found other psychics, maybe not to the same level of notoriety.
Right.
But
yeah. No, and that's just sort of I mean, if you need someone to be a spy, you can find a spy or someone to train to be a spy, you would hope. They have certain characteristics that are, but if you have to find someone who is a psychic that has the ability to do remote viewing, this becomes a very different search.
This is part of it, right? So are we looking at, or maybe you find a way to train people to do remote viewing. So instead of looking for people with psychic abilities.
Well, I did read that. I read that they found that, most people, when they did some sort of training, could do some of this. Now, what was their success rates?
The success rates were not great. So this is where it's hard to get accurate information. On one hand, Puthoff and Targ would say, hey, anybody to participate in the program they were running had to have like a 65% success rate.
65. Yeah, I did read that too.
That's insane.
That is insane. Yeah.
And when I read I read some I tried to find the final report, and that was surprising. Now, I didn't click on every document in the Stargate directory, but I think there's a final executive summary somewhere that basically says, one report says that it was essentially no better than random chance. So
and I read that too. So, but let's go into so the idea is that you have the psychic. So I'm just going to walk myself through this because I mean, I read this a bunch of this stuff and I was like, oh my God, this doesn't, So
Where's the explosions and the drugs?
where's the yeah, unlike like MK Ultra, that this is not, I mean, this is more.
Oh, there was nothing shady about this. So
No, there wasn't shady. Nobody was
cool part is
injured.
there was nothing shady. This wasn't a case of, oh, we're gonna kidnap psychics and do the Montauk project and strap them in a chair. No, this none of that. It's like
and have some sort of demon beast who comes through a portal. What? No.
What?
Yeah. So if I'm the guy and I find you're the psychic, you're my protege now, and I train you, and then I say, I want to know what at this time Gorbachev, what's Gorby doing? And you're like, oh, and you remote view, and you can kind of get an idea of where he is, and you're just starting to throw. And what it would be like this. They're from what I read and understand, they would just start verbally recording everything that they were saying, right, during the so, and a lot of it was just like gobbledygook.
So the cool part about this was they wouldn't tell them if they were wrong. So any of the stuff they did, they didn't want to undermine their confidence. So
right.
Whatever they said, they would go off and track it. And if they were wrong, they were like, okay, well, turns out Phil's not very good at this, but we're not going to tell Phil that. We're going to let him keep trying.
Until you get your last paycheck. Bye-bye.
Well, that's something they had said about the program, that there was a lot of that kind of, that's where the shadiness kind of comes in the program is, you've got these people sitting around going, we need to justify our paychecks. So we need something.
Yeah. And I get that. But at the same token, how do you know if they're right? I mean, if they're, so they were trying to use it like predicting, covert spies and all this other shit, right? Like they had some successes though. I read that there were successes.
There were some successes. So let's talk about one of the very minor successes that is more testing than a success. Do you remember about the native necklace?
No.
So essentially, one of the experiments conducted with psychic powers was trying to get remote viewers to identify objects that were out of view.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Extremely useful.
Yeah.
Target object was a gold Native American necklace. It was made up of a chain of gold spheres with larger balls at the center and gradually became smaller. So like me, big balls in the center and then moved out to smaller.
Like you? What? Jesus Christ.
And became smaller like you near the ends.
Fair enough.
Each of the gold balls was etched with designs, and the remote was given clay so they could actually shape it. So they would essentially shape it to what they were supposed to be seeing.
Mm-hmm.
So most got it completely wrong, like not even remotely close.
Oh, really?
One person wrote down information about Isuzu Japanese car manufacturers, and another described people-shaped objects. A few, however, did do balls out of clay, which is accurate to what the next looks like. They also talked about the idea of forging, that it was metal, like they would see somebody. What is it?
It was gold.
Describe someone with dark hair and skin forging.
Yeah.
Using metal, working metal.
Oh, well, so, I mean,
that's a success, kind of. Like it's documented. It's kind of documented, I guess. Documented files.
I don't know. This is one of these stories where it's like.
They said it was pretty. So the official response was the answer was still pretty vague and could have just been a really good guess.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay.
If you throw enough shit against a wall, some of it's going to stick.
Some of it's going to stick, right? So I mean, what about some of the bigger successes? Would you like to hit one of those up?
Yeah, I have. I mean, I didn't get into a lot because I did searches and I'm like, okay.
I only found like 4.
Yeah, there was 4 or 5. Now, with that said, I started to read a book called by Amy Jacobson. And if you've never heard of Amy Jacobson, look her up. Very brilliant lady who's a reporter. She does a lot of research into stuff. Anyway, she basically goes about some of the there is some declassified documents that, the CIA talk about Geller and that actually he had some great successes with what they did. They just wanted to discredit him, mostly because of his how famous he was, right? So, but there was this guy, the Joseph McMonigle, And he was a longtime member of this program, like from 78 to 84. And then he like basically consulted with them until the program.
He actually goes on afterwards, after he retires, to lead the Monroe Institute, which this is where things just start getting kind of conspiratorial, as you hear about where some of these people went. And you're like, they need to work at the Brand Corporation developing gene bombs or something. I don't know.
Yeah, well, but he had some successes. Like he was like their quarterback, right? Like for this program, apparently.
He was apparently one of their more gifted. I think he was also known as I want to say remote. Do they have it? Yeah, remote viewer number one. Apparently, that was his official designation. Was remote viewer number one.
Who does number two work for? Number one.
Number two work for.
Yeah. So, but he, he said, he was in 450 some. This is his own admission. 450 missions. I'm not sure what they dedicate as a mission, or like, how does this even work? Like, they give you a tiny bit of intel, and then.
So what I had read was the way the process actually worked was they only ever did this when they had nothing. They're like, yeah, we don't know. So it's like, hey, we can't find Jimmy at all.
That's not uncommon though. Now this is separate from this project or from this thing, but police do it. Mm-hmm. When they've got to like right to the last FBI do it, it's like, we got nothing else.
So and sometimes he got pulled in a couple times, at least according to his biography. He was pulled into law enforcement looking for killers, looking for missing people,
missing children,
stuff like that.
But there's a success rate there. So that's why they do it. They don't do it because they don't, it doesn't work all the time. It does work sometimes. So you have to kind of go, like it's pretty crazy.
But does it work any more than random? Like, this is the problem, right?
I don't know. But if
this is statistics. When you start running the numbers, did they find it? Like, again, if I randomly pick a point on the map, the chance of me picking the place where the dead body is low, but there's still a chance that I could randomly, assuming it's the body
there is. But at the same token, I mean, some of these and I have, seen or read some stuff about this and like some of them are very specific. Like, they are led right to where they need to be to find,
say, because they're the killer, Phil.
Well, I often thought I'm like, oh fuck. I'd be like, hey, wait a minute. Maybe there's a lot more psychics who are murderers than we are aware of. It's like, hey, Jerry, can you use your psychic powers? Sure, I killed 20 people.
That's right. I can tell you who are you looking for?
Which one are you looking for? I mean, who are you looking for?
Which one are you looking for?
Yeah, but anyway, so this guy, he he helped locate hostages in Iran, pointing CIA agents to a shortwave radio concealed in the pocket calculator of a suspected KGB agent captured in South Africa. That's pretty fucking specific. That's not like, hey, listen, there's going to be rain in, Zimbabwe tomorrow. That's not, that's pretty okay. Maybe there will be.
So I tried to find, so I didn't look into this. When I looked into their successes, I tried to look at I don't want to say documented. Maybe that's the wrong term.
Yeah.
I tried to keep the ones that I could cross-reference with a couple sources, right?
Yeah.
They weren't necessarily the same source. So I didn't see that one, but McGonigal, one of the things he was known for was he predicted a launch date for a newly constructed submarine months before it actually rolled from its construction crib.
Right, for Russia. It was a Russian crib, right? Or Russian sub?
And into the harbor, but I guess the submarine would be launched about 4, and satellite photos confirm this mid-January 19. Yes.
So it's right. Yeah, I read that too.
And he predicted it several months in the future. So he predicted it before it happened.
Yeah.
As opposed to predicting it after it happened, which.
But something like that, you're like, but he predicted the exact spot.
Yeah, the exact. Predicted details. That.
So you have to wonder how, like, that's pretty specific.
It is, but it could be a real, again, we're dealing with guesses, right? Yeah. Like, this is the thing. Based on this is why when you look at the final report of Stargate, right? There are these things where it's, hey, they were successful, right?
Yeah. But, they were.
So what else did he do? Do you have any other ones that?
Not so much with him, but I have this Angela Della Fiora Ford. She was one of their, and I guess she tracked down a former custom agent who had gone on the run. So that did you read about this one where she's able to pinpoint, but it wasn't actually the right name. They found this dude in Lowell, Wyoming, but she said Lovell, Wyoming. It's pretty fucking close though.
Close. Again, for
out of all the places you can choose, but they ended up apprehending the guy anyway in 100 miles west of Wyoming, called town called Lovell or Lowell, Wyoming.
Lowell.
But there was so few. I looked. I Googled
So the big one I know of is the Rosemary Smith.
Oh, okay. Which one's that?
So she was the young airwoman, they say airman, but young air person.
Right.
Who was given a map of Africa. She was told that sometime in the past, a Soviet bomber had crashed. And basically the U.S. of course wanted this bomber, right? Because the bomber would have been just rife with intelligence codes and it would have been technology, everything. Right? It would have just been salivating at the thought of it. She apparently was able to, they couldn't find it. She was apparently able to produce latitude and longitude. She was able to accurately pinpoint it.
Really?
And then once she gave them that, they knew where to look and they found it.
Wow.
Yeah.
But that's pretty fucked up.
It is pretty fucked up. So get this, President Carter, when he was asked about it, he said, the woman went into a trance and gave some latitude and longitude figures. We focused our satellite cameras on that point and the plane was there. When asked by reporters how he processed the news that a psychic located the plane, Carter replied, with skepticism.
With skepticism. Well, how do you blame them, right? How do you blame them? And this is the thing is that, I don't think there's any science where we're working towards figuring any of this out, right? This is like, they call it like parapsychology. It's like cryptozoology.
It's a pseudo, I think they call it like a pseudoscience.
Pseudoscience. And
pseudoscience.
Yeah. And so the whole purpose of this whole program was that they could, basically travel through whatever to see what's going on, or to find out, like you say, to find missing persons, to find intel. I think that would be the biggest one, right? Is what's my enemies doing? What can I learn?
Right. Apparently they thought the Russians were doing this too. So if the Russians are doing it, we'd better do it, and we better figure it out and how to do it better, whatever that is, whatever that looks like.
Yeah. And that seems to be the way of everything that they do, right? It's like, when did they start something first? Like everything is like, oh, we heard the Russians
atomic
are doing
bomb, I guess they started that first.
I guess.
And the Russians said, that's a really great thing. We're going to borrow.
I think we're going to do that. I'm sure they had their own programs going.
They couldn't be their people earlier on. Like World War II, the state of the Russian military was horrible. They did, come into their own later, but
I don't know. I mean, it's as far as this whole project, I mean, it seems to have been, it was disbanded. It was like, everybody go home.
So what would
We're
happen
all done.
What would happen is they started off, like you said, with, a dozen, 20 people, and then they just stopped replacing people, but they kept funding it. So this program ran until like 1990. Let's see. Ran till about 1995.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so the 1995, the Defense Appropriations Bill directed the program to be transferred from the DIA to CIA oversight. So the CIA was involved, but only tangentially. It was under DIA control, which is funny when you think about the DIA. You got the CIA, Central Intelligence Agency. You got the Defense Intelligence Agency. How much you want to make a bet? These two three-letter agencies got in pissing matches all the time.
All the time. Of course they did. Well, and that's why you have like varying degrees, and you have these clandestine programs, right? Where it's like they have no boss. It's need to know. And FBI has clandestine programs too, right? So at a federal level. But if the program's working or not working, someone must have said, unless, like you say, there's
Phil, if you were getting paid sweet money,
sweet baby Jesus,
like, would you go off and say, yeah, you know what? You'd be like wait till I'm retired. You'd be like, when's my retirement up? Okay,
Yeah.
now and this is what happened. So not that the retirement thing, but when it got transferred from the DIA to the CIA had no skin in the game. They didn't spend any money on this program. It was all DIA's money. And they're like, okay, let's look at this. And they commissioned a report by the American Institutes for Research that found that remote viewing had not proven to work by a psychic mechanism, and is said to have not been used operationally. And then the CIA subsequently canceled and declassified the program. So that's my psychic reading.
I know. And I mean,
like the movie Scanners, right? Where they were able to.
I fucking love that movie. Scanners.
Oh, the special effects were so bad, though. I have it.
Oh, dude, yes. What was it? Michael Ironside, remember? And it's like his head started bleeding, or I don't know, the noses started bleeding. Yeah.
But that wasn't necessarily this program. So this program was predominantly focused on remote viewing. A lot of the psychic stuff was there. But it was predominantly focused on remote viewing. At least they had a narrow scope versus MK Ultra, which remember last time they had 17 things they were trying to do. Had they focused on maybe two,
there was more than that. There was a fucking list.
Oh, like 150.
Yeah, there's 100. Yeah,
right, 150, and then the subcategories.
Yeah,
talk about scope creep.
Yeah, wow. But there's it's something that's more tangible, right? How to break down a person and torture them and do whatever. Where this is
drugs, there's going to be an effect.
That's right. So there was also some talk that I read about using different drugs to help them enhance their psychic ability.
So part of it comes down to the concept of altered state of consciousnesses or simply relaxation. So if you can get them into the right frame of mind, but the altered state of consciousness is a big one. I mean, the psilocybin, they talked about that, using that to induce. Now, the problem when you start doing stuff with altered states of consciousness is good luck getting anything useful, because you might, maybe you jacked up their psychic powers, but now they're not looking at Gorbachev.
Yeah, well, that's
your wife.
What's your wife doing?
That's right.
Well, this is it. I mean, if you had this ability to astral projection, that's the other thing they
the body, exactly right, the ability, which is different from remote viewing. Remote viewing is not astral projection, although they sometimes get lumped into the same category. Remote viewing is I am where I am, but I am able to perceive an area where I am not completely. Now
some of the other things was mind reading. So would they take, how would they do that? Would they do it with as an interrogation? Because I didn't read anything. All it said was mind reading.
So the only thing I know about that is how they would do the testing. And the testing was they hold up the card, and it's just like Ghostbusters, right? Bill Murray's looking at the card and says, tell me what's on the card. And basically when they do that, they're not saying use your psychic, which is less about remote viewing, because what you want to do is you want to read that person's mind and see what they're seeing. Oh, hey, look, it's a bunny.
It's a bunny, yeah. And then he kept zapping him. Bill Murray kept zapping him. He fucking didn't. He answered correctly, but and then the girl answered incorrectly the whole time. Oh, good. What a great movie. Good old Bill Murray.
So that's where the mind reading comes in, and that was something Uri Geller was apparently quite adept at. And
he was a lot like this David Blaine kind of or I don't know if Blaine's a good example, but
Blaine has never claimed to be psychic or an alien.
No.
He has clearly said he is a stage magician. A master
a master of illusion, right? But if you look at how they do certain things, I remember doing
Misdirection.
Misdirection.
Look over here.
Who was the guy? David Copperfield. Remember David Copperfield? So he did
the Statue of Liberty disappear. Was that David Copperfield?
Yeah, that's David Copperfield. He'd make things disappear. Or what's the other guy? He was really kind of mysterious. And
you're not talking Chris Angel. You're not talking Chris Angel.
No, he's from David Copperfield's time. Black hair, jet black hair. Anyway, so there was this time he was on TV, and basically it was like this thing where touch the screen. So he would say okay, well, touch any square on the screen, and you touch the square, and then he would say okay, and it was just a bunch of directions that he would give you that you had choices about. And then it turns out at the very end of everything, you're going through 10 steps, right?
You wind up everybody winds up at the same spot.
Yeah. but you made that choice. And I remember being like, what the fuck? As a kid, because I was just a kid at that time. And I remember being like, I don't like, okay, but you had choices, but did you have choices?
So you've heard the one where they say, take your age, do this, do this, do this, do this.
Yeah,
You're number 7, right? And you're like, oh my God, it's 7. Yeah, because you eventually wind up, because you've made me do operations. Then when you work through the operations, that's the natural result of.
Yeah, is it psychic or is it math?
I think in the case of the
probability.
directions with the squares, it's like if I tell you to go left, right, up, down, essentially.
It was choose. So choose square 2 or square 3, blah, blah, blah. But I wondered, like, do you always end up on that square? Right?
I would say probably yes. But again.
Yeah. Anyway.
I don't think it was I don't think, and it's not that I don't believe in psychics, right? So this is the thing.
No, I think there are genuinely people that have some interesting.
Would I fund this program? I don't know about that.
No. Well, there was other aspects of this program too, and that's why I said about the heart-stopping business, because there was a young girl, and actually, Amy, you know the one
about this one. Go ahead.
You know the one I'm talking about. I can't remember her name. Do you have her name?
No.
No. Okay.
And so that's why I think it's like urban. That's why I think it's almost like urban legend kind of.
Maybe it is. I don't know.
I couldn't find. I found a mention, but I didn't necessarily find anything that, like I said, Rosemary Smith. She's the one who found the bomber.
Yeah,
I got a name. I can't.
Well, they were trying to do things like, obviously, which would be a huge benefit to as a spy, is that if you could manipulate a person, right, heart rate, things like that. So they were trying to do where you can control physical aspects with your mind, and that would be what pyrokinesis. No,
pyrokinesis is fire.
So, like fire starter.
That's fine. So you could call
it's psychokinesis.
Psychokinesis is manipulation, usually of objects. I guess it could be called biokinesis. I guess.
Biokinesis.
I guess let's throw bio and kinesis with it.
So some of what I read, was about her, the young girl, stopping the hearts of mice. So she would be able to like concentrate. And
she would force choke them to death.
Or she would do this.
Right. Did you ever see the cartoon where it shows Darth Vader doing that, and then Stormtrooper's like, harder, and he's like, hard. What? It's like, wait, what? Wait, what?
No. You sick, twisted fuck. But but if you can imagine that, I could see them trying to do a whole bunch of different things, right? Like if you could stop the heart of somebody, like scanners.
So when you've talked about it, right? The one of the guys they had, the other participants in this program was a guy named Igno Swan.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And apparently they believed he had his psychokinesis, right? This was the guy they would sit in one room and basically say, hey, could you go off and affect the results of a random number generator? So could you manipulate it using your mind and change it so that it, instead of random numbers, it would spit out specific numbers?
Oh,
apparently he could.
Mm-hmm.
Right. He had done a bunch. So this guy had gotten put into a bunch of things. He was known for his remote viewing, but he was also known for his psychokinetic ability, which I'm assuming they probably pulled him into something like what you're talking about with killing mice. Because if you can manipulate clocks,
you can do something else. So an interesting thing was that I read too was about the designation between like men who stare at goats, right? Did you get the how that reference is? So there are sheep and goats. So the two categories that they belong to was men who stare at goats, while the sheep were the people that were just like you and I, and then the goats were the psychic level of whatever, and that's how they designated sheep and goats.
Really?
Yeah, that was in the novel from Annie Jacobson.
Okay, because we talk about men who stare at goats, right?
Yeah.
And this is for the record, folks. The movie and the book really don't have anything. They tie these elements in. So Project Stargate comes into at the start of the book, but they don't ever call it the Stargate Project. They talk about a psychic spy unit established by Army intelligence at Fort Meade,
Mhm.
which really is what the Stargate project was supposed to be.
Yeah. And I mean, it's a comedy for the most part. So
Comedic. It's comedic.
it is comedic. And our hero, George Clooney, I believe, is in it.
I think he was
fa-
supposed to be represent, like they say the character George Clooney was supposed to be representative of Yuri Geller.
Oh, really?
That now, not that he wasn't called Yuri Geller, but the character
Obviously
they
not.
went with was Yuri Geller.
Yeah. I don't know. My opinion is kind of jaded on this. I don't think I don't know. Part of me is like, okay, well, why would they fund a program that doesn't work
For as long as they did, right? This is
For as long as they did.
Did you not have an idea?
Yeah.
Like, I'm thinking if you're dumping money into this, you would have said after year one, saying, "How are we doing, folks?"
Mhm.
Maybe it was just poor project management, right? Maybe.
And would you want other people to know if you were successful? Because what does that tell you about being able to spy on people in your own country?
So they again, and this is one of the popular beliefs that they canceled it, wink, and declassified
Wink.
all these documents
Nudge,
to go and
nudge.
show what a big failure it was, wink.
Yeah.
And meanwhile, now it's been transferred to another 3-letter agency, and they're running with it. And don't worry, the fact that the Watts, the drummer for the Rolling Stones, died, he was,
But
he was killed by them.
He was killed by them. He was 81. or 80.
That's right. He was a drummer at 81. A Rolling Stones drummer at 81, folks. I am surprised he lived past 18 at that point, actually.
Well, like Keith outlived him, and
They're vampires. It's not the same thing.
What? What do you mean they're vampires?
Future episode of the Outer Chaos podcast. Rolling Stones are actually the undead.
Well, they have to, especially Keith. Keith Richards is fucking dead for sure. But yeah, I think that I can not see them putting money.
What was the word you just said?
I cannot not see. Nazi? Did I say Nazi?
What did the Nazis? Do we think the Nazis are involved? They probably
are always involved.
They're always involved. I mean, the Nazis were eating with the Thule Society, and they were eating this stuff up. They might not have believed in psychic powers, but they certainly believed in magic.
Well, the occult.
Yeah.
So that was another thing. I mean, they believed in the occult, and they fucking believed in all sorts. Why not psychic powers?
Why not? Right?
Why not see what happens? I don't know.
You said it again. Now we're banned in Germany. Thanks, Phil. We've just dropped our German viewership to 0.
German, the poor Germans. I'm not even going there. They're not poor. The war was a good thing for them, actually. I mean, they came back.
There are a lot of people in Germany who may have disagreed with you on that, but I guess
they rebuilt everything. They went from an economy that was disheveled and dying
from the first war, poverty
to, hey, you know what? We're rebuilding everything. Fuck. Thanks, America.
Terror between there, right?
Yeah.
Between when the East and West.
Well, who infused all of the money for them to rebuild?
Technically, both Russia and
the Allies.
Technically.
Yeah.
So
yeah, here's a bunch of money. We'll fix you up. We'll get you going.
We digress. So a lot of it comes down to they funded this program. They funded it from the late 70s to the mid 90s.
Yeah, you're right.
So you can't tell me sometime in between they didn't say, wait a second here, what's going on? Now they changed names. So they lost funding. So they did lose funding a couple times. And it turns out they would lose it and then they would change the name. So now it becomes like from Girl Flame to Sunstreak. Right? They would change names. I guess it's like our buddy H.H. Holmes. He would go and do horrible things and then move and change his name.
just move. He would borrow a lot of money. And then leave town.
And then just leave.
I knew a guy like that. But you know what? That's the thing is that these programs, the more you kind of go down this rabbit hole, you kind of go, I don't know. Like MK Ultra, it fucked up a lot of people.
True, but as we said with MK Ultra, did they really destroy the good stuff, and is this?
I know, and I agree.
I would like this.
But that's the rabbit hole.
Same cacategory, right? Where it's like, hey, they they canceled the program and declassified everything. Oh, good.
So this woman, the book that I'm which I can't even actually. I'll tell you it. Annie Jacobson. Let me just see what the name of the book is because I'm. It's called
Spank in the title.
What's that?
Doesn't have spank in the title.
It's called Phenomena, and she has a bunch of books on a bunch of different topics. But what she is sort of like a World War II CIA. She has a ton of contacts. She's written tons of books. She's very. Look her up, and she's worth.
Annie, if you ever want to come on our show, we'll interview you.
She was on Joe Rogan. She's kind of a big deal.
So she's not likely to be on Ordered Chaos, is what you're saying?
She would not likely. But
if somebody would like to play Annie Jacobson on our podcast,
wait a minute. Hold on. I'll play Annie Jacobson. I'm Annie Jacobson. But anyway, she very excellent, and she goes into quite a bit of detail about how this program, and she has it through sources, and she mentions names that have retired individuals who said they had a very high success rate. Which
and that's what I heard. I heard different reports. So some saying it was.
Why would you say
significant? I heard the term statistically significant with their successes. Which
why would you keep it going and then just all of a sudden fucking let it go? I don't think so. You would if you weren't getting some kind of result, some sort of tangible result. It'd be gone.
Let me put on my devil's advocate horns. One of the things is that those tangible results that they were getting were all frauds. It was all fake. Like, hey, we need to show something, and they would say that they would essentially predict stuff that happened already and say, well, we predicted it, and here we backdated. Look, and you would have something vague written up where it would say he talks about. It's like the Nostradamus prophecies, right? We've all read those. I mean, he would have been a perfect candidate for first.
But I can't. Project. I mean, I can't claim to know how the CIA would run things, but I would think that a program like this would be a helping program, right? It would be an aid to, like you said, it was like, we know there's last intelligence. Resort. Yeah. It's a last resort. It's not something that, that has its own existence for any other purpose than to aid another program. So those kind of programs typically, I don't know how well they would fly under the radar, but I think that for 20 years, that seems like maybe a few years, but 20 years of these guys are in this leaky, rundown shed. That's what
it spent a lot of time bouncing between private contractors and the government agencies. So often, like I think in 91, most of the contracting program was transferred from the SRI to the SAIC, the Science Applications International Corporation.
Okay.
Right.
So it did get bounced around, maybe.
Got it bounced around, and it actually got reclassified. So 80% of data, its security was altered from special access program to limited dissemination.
Yeah, and a program like that would have very little in terms of, other than salaries and things like that. It wouldn't be like an MK Ultra type billions of dollars.
You're not setting up a brothel. You're not setting up a brothel and videotaping people. Yeah.
Yeah. Midnight. What was it? Midnight
Climax.
Midnight Climax.
The Phil Orton story.
Yeah. Let's give a bunch of dudes LSD and see what they do with hookers.
I know.
How fucking bored are you? That's the question.
That's why I picked this topic compared to after our last one. I'm like, okay, well, let's see something that, is more. I mean, that other one was ridiculous, but also incredibly sinister. For sure. This one was quasi ridiculous.
It was kind of fun, but it actually, I don't know. Maybe it's meant to look that way, right?
So this is the common thread.
Because that's what I kind of feel like. It's sort of like everything. I read a bunch of shit, and anything government related was like, we scrapped it. Didn't do anything. No progress.
Don't look at the man behind the curtain.
Yeah. Wag the dog or whatever it is, But so to me, it's almost like, there's some shit going on here. You fuckers are just hiding it.
Or is it so we can look into this as much as we want, right? Or is it just?
Well, and that's part of it not being declassified. It's not, it's not declassified completely. So
that we know of, all we know is they declassified a bunch of stuff. And remember our MK Ultra one.
Where they burned everything?
They burned everything else, right? Yeah.
You silly buggers. You're sneaky.
You burned everything, right?
Helms. Oh, fucker.
Dickie Helms.
The Dickie Helms. Yeah, and I agree. I don't know. I don't know. I'm on the fence when it comes to stuff like this because I don't believe people put time, energy, and resources into something that doesn't work
For this long.
For this long.
long.
For
If
this
it was
long.
just, we ran it for 5 years and we said, you know what, this isn't working.
Yeah.
78 to 95.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's what I mean.
Near the end, it was down to 3 people, and one of those people used tarot cards. And apparently, the other psychics considered her a witch. She wasn't a real psychic.
Maybe she was a witch. you never know.
I don't know.
I believe there are things that we do not understand in this world, and I'm okay with not understanding them. But I can't. Maybe they needed to justify a program for whatever reason, just to say they had it. Who knows? We don't know.
To show you're doing something, right? If you hear in the news that the Russians are spending 60 million
rupees. Oh, it's ruples, I guess.
I think it's ruples, right?
Ruples, not rupees.
Yeah, ruples is India.
India,
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Ruples. 60 million ruples. What's that work out to? $7.
Yeah. It's like when the Germans
to go off and you
Deutsch.
Make sure. Deutsch.
How much do you make?
Bread.
I make 6 million Deutsch an hour. What? That's a lot of fucking Deutsch. How much is that worth? $2.
So I can buy a loaf of bread.
Loaf of bread, maybe.
Doing so good.
Yeah, but yeah,
it's that idea of you have to do something, right? So
yeah,
they created this program, and maybe it was the same idea, right? We talk about the Russians going off and spreading all this disinformation. Well, the U.S. is like, we'll one better for you. We're going to dump a big ton of money.
We'll fucking show you.
Try and keep up, motherfucker.
Right?
Well, that's how they won the Cold War. They bankrupted Russia.
Well,
the U.S. bankrupted Russia. They couldn't keep up with their tanks and their bombs and their guns.
No.
The U.S. was like, we'll keep throwing money at it. Come on.
We have the movie industry. You don't have that.
They have. I've seen some Russian movies.
Yeah, they're pretty good.
A Russian version of the Avengers.
Really?
What it's called? Yeah, it has a bear with a machine gun. It's a guy who turns into a bear with a machine.
Hey,
yeah.
New Spider-Man.
Hey, you see the trailer?
I did. It came out today. I think it came out today. It looks good. I like the new guy. I like what's his name?
Tom Holland.
Tom. Don't give me that look. Like I should.
I like. No, hey, I will admit, Tobey Maguire was my favorite Spider-Man to date. I do. Tom Holland is growing on me though.
So I hear that Tobey Maguire might be in this.
I know. I heard too. So I know who is in this. Alfred Molina, another one of my faves.
Doc Ock. That's right. Yeah, he was.
You saw the trailer. That's Alfred Molina, right? You just hello, Peter.
Hello, Peter. Yes, kill him. Yes. No,
no, wait, I didn't say kill him.
Yeah, no, it does look good. I enjoy Spider-Man.
We saved the universe together, Peter. I don't think you need to call me sir. Okay, Steven. All right, that's really weird.
All right, yeah, just so one of my favorite is Doctor Strange. So that's one of my favorite movies in the Marvel universe. He's and I can't think of a better person to play him than Cumberbatch. He's just the pompous.
It's like Downey and Stark, isn't it?
It is. You just go that
nailed it.
That dude is Doctor Strange. No one else can now ever, never be Doctor Strange. You're all fucked. Can't. Marvel's like, all right, anyone else is just not going to do it.
We just got to keep giving him money as long as he'll keep showing up.
Yeah. Well, this is. Oh yeah, for sure. But I like the fact that he's in it. There is a new Doctor Strange coming out too.
Oh yeah, Multiverse of Madness. Apparently, it's got Elizabeth Olsen from she's the Scarlet Witch. If you watched WandaVision, it ends.
I have not. I can't get past a certain part.
I just push past the first 3 episodes.
Everyone tells me that. I don't know if I
give a series 3 episodes. If it doesn't grab you by the end of the 3rd episode, stop watching.
I watched one and then into another one, and I'm like,
did you watch Loki at least?
Not yet. My daughter and I are going to watch that together. We like to binge watch these. So it's like I don't even know when we'll have time. I don't like to wait a week. That's who I am now. I will fucking wait and not watch it and try not to hear anything about it and then binge watch 6 episodes.
Melissa will binge watch, like you were watching Manifest. She was watching 3. She was going nuts on it.
Manifest was so good. Did you watch the 3rd season as well?
I have no idea. I don't watch
So
a lot
sad.
of TV. It takes me forever. Oh, great. Now you've ruined it for her. If she watches his episodes, now she knows the 3rd season is sad.
No,
Thank
3rd
you,
season's amazing. That's the sad part.
Oh, gotcha. Okay, good. So
It's amazing. And then the bastards. Oh God. Anyway,
good.
Melissa,
Anyway,
enjoy it. Anyway, yeah. So do you want to know what we're doing next week?
Yeah, Phil, let's hit me with it.
Well, I was picking it's between 2 choices.
Oh, okay. It sounds familiar. It sounds like it's something I've put up before saying I have 2 choices. I'm of 2 minds.
I don't normally have 2 choices though. So it's either flat Earth, because what? I just like to get fun with things, or the moon landing.
Oh, so if we're talking, oh man,
it's so tough. I don't know.
Landing has a lot of really good conspiracies behind it.
They do.
Like really good. And the flat Earth is more like
you'd be surprised.
Crazy shit.
You'd be surprised. But I was reading, I'm like, oh my God, I don't want to go down that rabbit hole. I'm quite happy with the Earth being round. So, all right, let's do the moon landing.
I think the moon landing, there's so much.
It's kind of in parallel to our Cold War. This is like our Cold War season.
Actually, no, you're absolutely right, because MK Ultra, they all play in. Like the moon landing was totally a Cold War.
Oh, for sure. Propaganda. So that makes sense. All right, let's do the moon landing, motherfuckers. Moon landing. We're going to do it next week.
Now, again, folks, when we talk about the moon landing, we're focusing on the conspiracies about it, not the actual moon landing. So,
the moon landing was faked. That's the big thing, right?
That's the focus. We're not.
That's the focus. We don't. Yeah, we're not going to get all Buzz Aldrin and whatever his name was. Anyway,
is it Lance Armstrong?
Lance. Yeah, Neil.
Yeah, it was Neil. Yeah, Lance Armstrong was the cyclist with testicle,
prostate cancer, and then steroids.
I think he had testicle cancer.
I don't know. I thought it was prostate. I don't remember.
No, I know he had 1 testicle or no testicle.
You really keep track of balls. Good for you. All right.
I don't even know how to respond to that.
Thank you very much for watching the OC. I'm Phil. It's my co-host Corey, and we will see you next week for the faking of the moon landing, which you never know. Fuck.
Or we'll call it the moon landing conspiracy, or
something like that.
The lunar conspiracy.
The loony conspiracy.
You'll come up with you'll come up with something clever.
I'll figure something. I don't know. All right. Good night, folks.
See ya.